Okay, so there were reports about New York basically taking uh, Bernie off the list for people that can be voted on in New York. Now, I imagine some other states will do that, uh, and this is because of the Democratic establishment there decided that they wanted to mitigate any issues with people supporting Bernie, and possibly skewing the delegate counts there, and that's basically what it is. They're trying to rig it so that Biden gets the necessary delegates so they can claim, oh look, he won by a landslide. Uh, but this brings me to a point that I've made before. You have to understand something about all these lawsuits that happen, and how this whole thing of lawsuits over the years is basically a way to take criminal felony out, and the go-to is lawsuit. So you can sue, the states can sue the federal government can sue the states, uh, people can sue judges, they can sue companies and all that other stuff. But think about it. Like I've done a story on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Uh, they've touted this and so on and so forth, and giving Warren such glory, which is undeserved. Because think about it: if you really wanted to protect the public, protect the people, then you would put a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that had teeth, who could not only take money in the way of fines, and those fines would be astronomical, so high that companies wouldn't even dream of trying to do anything like that. And you would also put felony charges for those on the top making the decisions. So, like going back to Wells Fargo, Wells Fargo did 7 or more of basically the same thing, the same fraud, which is basically robbing their own customers, and doing and basically doing accounting tricks and so on and so forth. All of it, it was just basically is just robbery. It's looting. And what ended up happening? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau got some of the money, not all of the money, but some of the money, quote unquote, back. But Wells Fargo did it again, and the first time they did it, they got a couple $1 billion. So they basically committed bank robbery of their own bank with, by creating fake accounts and all that. I don't know if that was the first one, but there was a whole bunch of them. So, and then they go and do it again, but they do it slightly different. They do this another way, and then they do it again, and then they do it again, and each time they pay out a fine, but it's money that they actually stole through fraud, and only a portion comes back, and Again, they've made out. They made out with billions. Bank of America has done crap like this. Uh, all the financial institutions, all these financial institutions and banks have done this. The big ones, and even the smaller big banks, they all do this. And being able to do a lawsuit solves nothing. It leaves the criminals who are making the decision to do it again. So if you're the criminal making the decisions, and you know that there are no consequences, and you're not actually losing money. What you're doing is you're gaining money because you're gaming the system. So what's there to stop you? It isn't the politicians because they're in the game with it. It's not the people. It's not the other infrastructure of government because because more than likely the people on top are playing the game. So understand this because this goes beyond just committing fraud by the big banks and financial institutions. This happens whether you work whether it deals with the EPA or the FDA or the FCC or whatnot. I mean, you have these big law firms, and all they do is corporate malfeasance. And what that means is, like, what was that movie with Julia Roberts, based on a woman that oh, crap, I can't think of it. But there was another one earlier than that with John Travolta, who played this lawyer, and basically, if I remember correctly, that law firm basically bankrupted. Well, the guy, the head lawyer, basically almost bankrupted himself in order to bring the corporations responsible for basically dumping toxins willy nilly all over the place, and that's because they were allowed to do that, and because there was no real consequence, and because they could use their money that they made fraudulently to fight, and because they had the advantage of money, they had the advantage of influence, they had the advantage of everything. They even there was even the media, because the media didn't wasn't gonna really report it unless they were forced to, and when they did, they didn't go into contextual detail. They didn't build the outrage that was legitimate and should have been done. And that same company is still operating, still doing the same shit. Which is why we have Dow Chemicals dumping their toxic waste, including in the process of manufacturing Teflon. And they knew they had created a nanoparticle that couldn't be filtered, didn't degrade over time, and it would have health and toxicity problems for the environment and for people and living things. So, just as Monsanto knew about their glyphosate, Monsanto, the list goes on, and they're still operating. And why? Because the lawsuits don't work. They don't work. And then on top of that, you have to understand they're getting tax they're getting subsidies to operate. So are they really losing money? And is the money actually? Are they? Is the government who is the people that are in government and official positions? Are they actually? Taking the taking in the fines? You we have to be suspicious because really there's no evidence, and if you try to look into it, it takes knowledge of where to look and how to look for it, and it takes money because you got to you want a FOIA request, you want to get a FOIA request put through, you have to pay money. So if you're struggling, if you're just a working class person and you're just struggling to do how the hell are you gonna find out about it? So the whole system depends on people who have money, and then you have to wonder: are these law firms that do corporate malfeasance and industrial malfeasance and all that other stuff? Are they really in it for bring to light, or are they in it to make? Are they in it to make a killing in money? Just, I mean, even in that was Aaron Brockovich, yeah, Aaron Brockovich. Even in Aaron Brockovich, it shows how well it paid out. It shows how this little known law firm with a small staff suddenly became a huge law firm because even if they didn't get even if they didn't get a killing, they got fame through it. But I, but I have a feeling that they made a killing on that first one. Remember, they even talk about what percentage they get in the movie. So this whole thing is just utter nonsense. So understand, like in 2016, there was a group that started a lawsuit for basically rigging 2016 against Bernie Sanders, and it was all sorts of evidence, including the woman that was in charge, the head of the DNC at the time, and then there was the then there was the report of the basically the DNC saying, "Hey, we're a private organization. We can do whatever we want. We can go sit down in a smoky back room and decide this, and there's nothing you can do about it." So it's useless because there are no policies. There are no policies that stick to law, actual law. That is common sense and natural because it's fixed. And the laws that are implemented are laws that are implemented against people who are the quote unquote average, but they are the backbone and foundation of any country, of any community, the ones that make everything run. They don't have to be natural, common sense laws. A lot of times it's rigged, and even if they are common sense laws, then there's wiggle room to show, like, if you have a bias against somebody who doesn't look like you, if you have a bias against foreigners, if you have a bias against somebody being poor because you're an ignorant asshole who should never have uh, been a district attorney, or a or the person who recommends, or the judge, or the cops, or a mayor making it, or a councilman, or a business leader. So, there's just it's all fixed, and there is no justice. There can never be any justice until we scrub the laws, rules, statutes, regulations, until we force out the criminals and let them know that their very lives hang by a thread if they don't butt out, if they don't do as they're told, and if they don't, and if they pop their heads up, it's gonna get chopped off. That's what's necessary. Everybody goes, oh, well, you can't have violence because it's, especially civil. There doesn't need to be a civil war. What there needs to be is a realization of the fundamentals, that it's the criminals with legitimacy who are putting the building up an infrastructure of the ignorant who are gullible into positions of official positions, but there's still a small number. So what you do is you cut off the heads. So you go in and say and go after the ones doing the rigging, and that's the ones in the political and the business arena. And they're both, in my opinion, criminal organizations. You go after them, and you take away their materials, and so on and so forth, and you go down the line until you take out the entirety of the leadership, or the ones who have the influence and pull. You take them all out, and you demonstrate in a harsh way the consequences, and voila, the rest of them get cowed, or they start thinking, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe I should try to think more. And that's how you do it. You don't need to go out and start killing everybody and everybody and anybody because you're concerned. And that just simply takes being able to think clearly and knowing the objectives and who the objectives are. That's it. That's how it works. It's not rocket science. And you go based on what their private history, which is not often private at all. And you go after their public history, and that's how you compile, how you say, oh, this person is a criminally inclined bad actor. A person who's not doing anything in good faith. And that's how you do it. If you want to show compassion and empathy, Then what you do is you set up a structure to allow people who have who are who are psychiatrists and psychologists and behavioral therapists and all that other stuff uh, and and social uh, and social and social science and who have their heads screwed on tight, who haven't bought completely into the BS that's often taught in these fields, who have been critically thinking, and you set up a structure where you send them there, and they can go through with these people and say, yeah, okay, so why do you think this way? All right, what was, and then they can break them down and rebuild them up and work with them if you want to show compassion that way. Me personally, I'm the type of person who believes that if you've been doing it if you've been doing it for as long as they've been doing it, and they keep doing it and keep doing it, even though it's been pointing out, and they know deep down it's that what they're doing is being con artists and taking advantage and becoming a societal pariah and predator, because they all do. I don't care if you think Trump doesn't. Trump knows at a certain level. He knows. Steve Mnuchin knows. Otherwise, why would they lie? Otherwise, why would they fabricate? Otherwise, why would they do all that? Because they know it's not. It's not possible not to know. We only do the self-defensive when we know we're being dishonest, when we know we are being when we know we're being false. That's when the natural preservation thing kicks in. And that's where mental gymnastics comes in. They know. So I'm not one to show compassion to people who know and know and know and know, but yet they've done it for years upon years upon years at the expense of hundreds of thousands to millions to hundreds of millions. They know. And all this pseudo intellectualism that has bled into this false compassion and empathy, that's a societal issue. That's that's an engineered narrative which we get taught through our formal years of school, and through our movies, through our music, through our higher education, to our religious institutions, and they've learned it from their parents and from the societal systems. They all learn this, but even with all that, we still know when there's when we're doing something wrong, because we will lie or we will bury. But I know personally that when I've told a lie, but my lies don't rob and steal people of of uh, of their finances or anything, and my lies don't cause others to go out and do violence or spread things that will cause violence, and to people that have nothing to do with it. When I use the words I use, have a specific reason and a specific target, and I am clearly showing where my biases are. I'm not in my biases. I don't like dishonest, disingenuous, deceitful, uh, predatory pariahs in society. I don't like them. I don't believe in tolerating them. I believe that they are the root of almost everything that goes wrong. I believe they are these sadistic, satanic orchestrators who feed ignorance, and ignorance and ignore and ignoring like a virus. No, not like a virus. That's I don't like them. I'm not against. I'm not. I'm actually not against violence. I think violence. I think violence has a purpose, but it's how and the reasons why. I don't agree in doing violence to somebody because they have a different skin color, or they speak a different language, or they believe in a certain religion. What I do have with religions is when they have stuff about, oh, go vilify people because they like they're a man like another man, and they want to have physical relations, or a woman and a woman. And, I don't go at people because they feel like they were born the wrong gender rather. Those aren't stuff I care about. Those aren't things that I feel is in some way wrong or evil, because we could all come. Any one of us could be come up that way when we're born. And do we want to be? Do we want to be ostracized? Do we want to be attacked? Do we want to be verbally and physically assaulted and all that other stuff? No. And that's true compassion. That's true empathy. I place myself in their shoes, metaphorical shoes, because I know I don't like it. And if I don't like that sort of abuse, and I'm not gay or being born and believe that I should be something else, I don't. But that doesn't matter, because I when I get verbally attacked, when I've had physically I've been attacked for the way I look, or for sticking up for myself, or for whatever, or for sticking up for others, I don't like it. Nobody does. It's natural. But I think there's a line that you cross, and at that point, I have no compassion, no empathy, and I believe that violence must be applied, and it must be proportional, and that when you do violence, you do it incrementally, until you get the results, or you end it. That's the way I look at it. I'm willing to give you another chance, but because The way I look at it is, you've done it so long and so often, and you've gotten away with it, and you've basically affected millions upon millions, especially if you're in politics or in the big corporations. Then I have absolutely no empathy, and I have no compunctions about administering fatal and immediate violence. If you're a racist and you go around shooting dozens of people because you don't like how they look, I have no empathy. I believe in immediate, fatal. That's the way I operate, because that's, to me, is justice. That to me is right. That to me shows that where my morality, where my red lines are, and says this is what society should be. You will not do this because you wouldn't want it done to you, so you cannot go and do this to others. I'm not talking about somebody getting into a car and having an accident and accidentally killing somebody. There was no intent to kill that person or family. Accidents happen, or you get into a fight with somebody because you got angry. And does that mean the person that accidentally killed somebody, or that person that got into a fight, it might have severely hurt that person? Do I believe in immediate fatality? No. No. But when you know you're doing what you're doing is wrong, when you know and you've done it over and over and over again, and your life has been a litany of thinking in these terms, and working through how you can how you can take advantage, then guess what? I have no compunctions about it. None whatsoever. Most of us don't go through life thinking, "Oh, how can I get the better of others?" Those are the types whom I have absolutely no compassion or empathy for, or tolerance, and that's the way we all should be. And that's what I mean by intolerance, and that's what I mean by force. Show in verbally, emotionally, and physically. Show a consistency, because that is a good way to measure corrective behavior. That is a way to show what principles and morals and ethics, all the things we say we value, all the things that we say we're supposed to stand for. That's the way to show it. There is insanity in going to the extreme, and that is what that is what these criminals have done. Is built up this fable, this fantasy of this extreme. All right, thanks.